Welcome to part two, everybody. We're going to start part two of putting cooling fans in. By the way, that's a pain in the back to take these out. So one thing I would recommend you do if you're going to pull your cooling fans is unhook this upper radiator hose. Makes the job a whole lot easier, and you'll see why here in a minute. We've got this brace right here that we got to push back in order to get the fans down in. And then after that, we can put our bolts in. Now, on your car, you may have a couple extra bolts than I do for your power steering lines. If you forget them, don't worry about it. They just mount to the cooling fan. I'll show you here in a minute. All right, on your cooling fan, you've got a couple bolt holes right here and right here. That's where those lines go on. Don't worry about it. If you don't have them, don't worry about it. So I'm gonna pull this bracket back, feed this down, lift your hose up. Now this sits on your feet, sit on little rests down there, so make sure that they get put back on those rests. And if I'd have taped how I got this out, you'd have been pretty amazed on how I did it. You got to navigate it down past everything. This brace gets in the way a lot. This hose gets in the way a lot. You've got electrical down there that gets in the way. You just got to be careful when you put this down that you don't break something while you're doing it. You're going to get caught over here on this radiator support. You got to navigate around this radiator support, which is easier said than done. And if that's too much light, I apologize. I've got to see. There we go. Get it down past that radiator support, and then it drops down onto little feet. I don't know if you can see it from the camera view, but there's little latches that you lock into. As soon as you get them locked in, you can put your bolts in to hold your radiator fan together. I try to find a spot to get a light on this thing so I can find that foot. This side's a little harder to get a hold of. You get it locked in. Once you do get it locked in, then you can put your bolts in. See if I can get my light down in there to where I can see what I'm doing. There's no place for a good light bulb here. You gotta tip it forward, and then you may have to take your hand down in here and reach down and find the lock. Oh, it's way up here. Okay, that's why I'm not hitting. You gotta go way up here, and then you can push down in it and lock it in place. Take your hand down in here if you want to, make sure it's in. We are in. And then what you need to do is come over here, make sure your bolt holes are lined up on each side. Your bolt holes for your radiator is right here, okay? You got the same one on the other side under the lower radiator hose. So now you can put your power steering hose back on, or your transmission line, whichever you have removed. And that goes like this. It goes back on here, because you could put the bolt in without this. You have to take this off to get the cooling fans out, because when you go to pull this up, this upper area gets trapped up against this line, so you have to take this line off. So put your clip back in, and then you just pull it till it snaps, and then you want to tug on it, make sure that it doesn't come back out. And see, I'm going to set my light down here so I can get a better grab on this thing, make sure that it's in all the way. And then if you put your rubber cover back over the end of the radiator hose here that you took apart, you'll know if it's in all the way, because your rubber cover will go back on. If it don't go back on, it's not in all the way. You got to keep messing with it. Now this little bracket right here that I'm messing with, that actually attaches right here on your radiator. Just make sure you get that pushed in all the way so that you don't leak. And of course, when you start the car up and run it, you want to check that for leaks, because this one didn't have an O-ring on it, and I'm not real sure if they're supposed to. Knowing GM, it probably has an O-ring inside the radiator that it attaches to. But if it does leak, pull your clip, put an O-ring on it, put it back in, be good to go. You put the O-ring before the barb, not after the barb. You put it before the barb, okay? I've seen people put it after the barb and they wonder why it still leaks. Well, there's a reason for that. So, all right, well, he's missing a bolt to this fan, so I've got to go get a bolt for it. But before we go do that, you need to reach down here, grab your electrical, and put your electrical back on. So make sure that snaps in there. You got one down here that you got to put on your low speed fan. And snap that back on. Okay, your electrical's hooked up. Now we can go ahead and put the bolts back in it. But like I said, I got to go get bolts. So we will finish this up on day 2. Okay, we're going to try to do this in the dark. So I got my bolt right here. It's a 10mm. You can see those 2 holes down there in the end of the car. Those go to that big bracket that goes along the top of the radiator core support. Now, normally I would do this with a magnet because these have a tendency to fall down inside the car. We're going to try to do this without a magnet. I'm going to try real hard to do this without putting a magnet on it. Get it down. I think I got it. Nope, missed it. Good thing is we can take it and we can scoot it. Can you see what we're doing here? Try to get it in that hole. Let me grab one more extension real quick. I think this is going to be one of those that I'm going to have to add another extension to it. Let's see what we can do here. As I kick everything. Get you back in focus here. Let's see if we can back you up a little bit so you can get a better view. There we go. You can see straight ahead now. You can see those bolt holes that we're going after. Yeah, we got that one right there, and then we got another one. Grab another extension here real quick, and we'll see if we can grab that. Now, if you have the bottom cover off the car, like I don't, then you can just reach up here and grab it. But in the event that you don't have the cover off, but you still need to get this bolt in, this is how we're doing it. I think I got it in the hole. Yep, we got it. There it is. This takes like 500,000 extensions. See, there's the bolt right there. You can see the bolt. This is how you get it in without having to drop that bottom splash shield. This one, the splash shield's aftermarket, and it's a bit of a pain in the neck. We're going to go ahead and get these in. You got to be very, very delicate when you do this. Otherwise, you drop your screw. So, see if we got that all the way in yet. Should be just about there. There it is. I'm feeling it tighten up now. Yeah, the joys of trying a video at night, I'm telling you, not good. Alright, we got that one in. We got to wiggle our back here and get it back out of the bumper. Then we'll load it up and go after that other one. That other one might be easier to get to, I don't know. These both came out fairly easy, and to get them out you need a magnet. So, because when you get ready to pull these out, they like to fall apart. So, let's see if we can get you in position for bolt number 2 here. You can see it right there, right in between these two right here. See it sitting right there. Just get this inside the little mini grill here that we got. Do it without breaking the grill too. You can do it without breaking the grill. And we'll slide this down through the spot there. Now see what happens there? It fell down inside the splash shield. So now I'm gonna have to dig it up. So let me see if I can dig it out real quick. I might be able to reach up inside the splash shield and just stick it in the hole. We'll see what happens. So we're gonna leave the light on so you can see what's going on. And I got my little pocket flashlight here. Crawl up underneath the car. Find that bolt, which fell probably in the top of the cover instead of the bottom. It did. Go right up, right in this area, right up in the front of the grill here. We gotta find it. All right, I found it. Now if I can locate the, all right, so you're gonna see my hand in a minute. So you can reach up in here. If you can find this piece here, you can find the bolt hole. I missed it. I missed it. It's supposed to be right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that bolt right there. I'm going to show you how we're going to handle this. Leave the bolt right there. Okay. See right close where I've got it. So now I'm going to take my socket. This is why you need a magnet. Which I have to find mine. I think it's up on the car. Oh, crap. Yeah. Grab your magnet. Show you how we do this. See. Take your magnet and you feed it on through there. You bring your bolt back out, right? Now we could have left it in there, which I think we might do. But let me show you how we do this. Take your magnet, hold your bolt. Yeah, let's pull the bolt back out and then I can set it up the right way. Set it up the correct way here. Stick your bolt inside your socket, okay? Then with your magnet in one hand and your bolt in the other, feed it through the grill, okay? You gotta feed it through the grill. Using your magnet, hold the bolt inside the socket. This way, the bolt does not come out. And then we just find them. And there it is. Pull your magnet back. Turn your bolt so it comes in contact with the threads. And we're in. Look at that. That's how you fix a screw up. I'll scoot you over a little bit here so I can get the bolt tightened down. You almost have to have the splash shield out to do this. But I just showed you a way that if you can get the back of the splash shield down where you can get your hand in there, you'd be better off. You can actually get it done that way. get that tightened up, and then we can call this done for tonight, because it's really dark out here and I don't know how well this is going to turn out on camera. So, but wanted to show you how we get these bolts back in when you take that center brace off. Tighten that up, wiggle your socket off. Try not to lose your setup inside the car, because you can end up doing that too. So there's that part. So I'll tighten up the 2 bolts on the top, and then tomorrow, or whenever the weather will allow us, we'll finish this up. Welcome to day 2. Okay, last night I got the crossbar reinstalled. This bar right here got reinstalled, but I did not tighten it up because I was going to do that for you guys today. Radiator mounts are in. One thing I want to bring to your attention is these are indexed. It says L and R on it, so make sure that they go back in them slots right there. I got this tightened up last night, and I showed you in the dark how you can get those bottom bolts in without having to get underneath the splash shield. But then we had to get underneath the splash shield, so there's that. I ended up putting the wrong bolts back in the bumper here. So these are actually supposed to be gray like that, but it really doesn't matter because they're all the same bolt. So today we've got to get these bolts in here tightened up. Yeah, I had to go buy some bolts for it last night. Also got the bolt replaced in the cooling fans. We got the cooling fans hooked up last night. So today we're going to start off getting the dog bone put on, otherwise known as a torque mount. Torque mount, if you remember our power steering video, it's right over here. So I've got the hardware off of it sitting in the car. So today what we need to do to get the torque mount out is we got to remove the coolant reservoir. Just got to pick it up long enough to get the mount out, and then we put the new mount in, put the bolts back in, tighten it back down. Then we can drop the jack out from underneath the car, because the engine will be sitting on all of its mounts, and then we can start tightening bolts up, put our box back together for our air box, and we'll start it up. We'll check it for leaks, any codes we may have set by disconnecting everything. We'll clear the codes out, give it back to the customer today before the rain hits. So for those of you that need part numbers, this is the part number that we're using today, and it looks just like the one that came off of it, except the center is intact. I'll show it to you here. See, that's the end that's intact, that's broken on ours. It goes like that. When it's all said and done, it goes like that. So get the reservoir loose. We're not even going to disconnect any of the hoses. We're just going to take the bolt out right there, and then we're going to lift up our panel clip. I've got some special pliers we're going to use for the panel clip, and then lift it up. So let me grab our tools and we'll get started. Alright, we're ready to go. Got our 10mm right here. These are panel clip pliers. Show you how these work. You slide it underneath, pick up, lift up. $10 over at Harbor Freight. Saw these online on Facebook through an ad and thought I had to have them. And I used them yesterday to take the front end apart. They work perfect. So you'll get to see it here live in just a second. So, alright, we got our tool right there. We gotta get this piece out of here. That's part of the old dog bone. So the way these work is you find your space right here, pick up on it like that, and then if you want to, you can scoot down underneath, pop it right out. Makes it easy, makes it fast. You can get a lot done. And of course we got our 10 over here that we had from the power steering video. Spin this off with your fingers like this. And then we just gotta lift this up high enough to get that out. And then we put the new bone down in, or the new strut torque mount, whatever you want to call it. Alright, and we just pick this up, slide this forward. We got to go up just enough for us to clear. You're supposed to have another nut on it down here, but he does not. There's a lot of hardware missing on this car. Jeez Louise. Alright. Pick up our torque mount. Take that and throw it over there. Grab your new mount, slide it in between the reservoir and the power steering pump. This is why you got to move the reservoir so it fits down like that. And then your bowl hole lines up. Go ahead and put your coolant reservoir back in place. Make sure you get it back on the stud down underneath. And then I don't remember the torque spec for that bolt or the nut. I just get it cinched down tight enough to where it ain't gonna come apart. Since I don't know if we're gonna have to take it off again for something else in the future. And then we just tighten our bolt back up here. The bolt head for that is an 18 millimeter. It's the same on the nut. So, let me go grab our bolt out of the back seat. We'll get that put in, and we'll move on to the next step. 18 millimeter socket. Our bolt and our nut, I put them both together so I wouldn't lose them. We got Bertha here ready to go. Got crap on our engine we're gonna have to address later. Just find your hole. Don't tighten it down yet. Just get it started. That noise you're hearing is just this thing rattling on this pivot down here. You don't want to tighten this because the adjustment on it is different from the front and the back. And you do have some coolant hoses down here you have to navigate around. Just do your best. Spin your nut down to where it's just about to go tight. Make sure that your torque mount looks like you want to go ahead and on the nut back here, you want to make sure that you push your torque mount up to where it lines up on the back. Don't worry too much about the front, because the front, when it comes down, it'll match up on the front too. So, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second before we tighten this down. All right, when you get your torque mount installed, make sure that your nut is right up against the edge of this metal center. And then when you come up to the front, it should look like that. Once you got it set up like that, you're ready to tighten it down. So that is what we'll do now. We'll go ahead and we'll get that tightened down. See if you can see everything that we're doing here. Of course, I went a little overkill by putting the extension on Bertha, but I did that for the back bolt, or the nut. I think these torque to like 65 or 70 foot-pounds if you want to put a torque wrench on it. So, dog bone's installed. That's installed. I'm sorry, torque mount is installed. Okay. So, now we gotta get our bolts tightened up on our crash bar. So in order to do that, we got to move this battery box back. The two large bolts on the ends. Now we're going to go ahead and get our bolts tightened up. So I've got several different ratchets here, so we're going to just go through and zip them down with the electric. Then I'll go back over them with the regular, and we'll make sure they're nice and tight, and we'll go all the way down the line. As I go, I'll move the camera down so you can watch me do this. If you got any questions, of course, there's always the comments box. And so there you go. First thing is two support bar bolts. Go ahead and zip those down real quick. 15 millimeter. You got to be careful around this one on the back side here because of this washer fluid box. If you're uncomfortable getting it in here, you can always do this. You can always get you an extension. Get you a 3-inch extension. You can get this one back here like that, see? Like that. And you get down in here like this. You got to pull this back just a little bit. There's that one. Careful you don't snap the top off your washer fluid box, or your washer fluid bucket. All right, next, these are 10s. So we'll zip these down with the ratchet real quick. We already did the 2 middle bolts last night, so I'll just go over them, make sure that they're tight. Alright, that one's nice and tight. This bolt right here, nice and tight. Zoom me over here so you can see me over here. This one's nice and tight. That one's good. And then we'll come over here. If you can spin these in by hand, by all means, go for it. I put my hand over it to create a little bit of friction on the socket so that it tightens it down. Because I could spin these in by hand, but I want you to see what I'm doing, so you can't really see what I'm doing if I'm doing it by hand. And then we got our zip gun for these last 2 bolts. Be careful, this is your PCM right here. You don't want to mess that up, so you can use your extension on it. Just zip these 2 bolts back in here. Zip this one down right here. And like I said, we're going to go back over them with our handy dandy ratchet here. And just make sure these are nice and tight. We'll start on the passenger side here. You can't see me, but I'm tightening up these bolts here. That torque gun, or that electric ratchet, if you let it go all the way to the end, it puts about 50 foot-pounds on the bolt. So all you got to do is just verify it. And that's what we did there. We verified it. Let me see if you can see. We'll put our air box back together. And let's see. Now we're putting our air box back together. Air box comes apart in 2 pieces. You got your base right here. The base goes, all right, this end goes this way, like this. Covers up your PCM. And then you got some clips down here you gotta engage. So you'll engage your clips. There's 3 of them. This one's got 1 missing, so your other one sits over here next to your throttle body. Don't forget that. This is your mass airflow sensor lead. We're going to put that on in just a minute. You've got a couple screw holes back here for some screws. Oh, see, we already screwed up. I'll show you what we didn't do. This thing sits in a hinge. So you got to pull this back up. You got to put it in the hinge back here. See, it goes in the hinge. Push your air baffle back for your throttle body, and you just want to make sure that you're not snagging on anything. Feels like we're snagging on something. Yeah, we are. We got a wire over here catching us. Catching right in here. You want to keep an eye on that. Now we got it down inside the hinges. We can go ahead and reconnect the clips. There's 3 on it. Okay. Now on some models, you have an extension tube that comes out off of this piece here. The only thing this does is keep your computer cool. So if you don't have one, it's perfectly fine. All right, so next step is we're gonna put your air filter back in. This one needs to be changed, but I'll let the customer know. Put it in, find your alignment mark, same right here. Slide this down in just like that. It won't go in any other way. It's one way only. Take your air box, set your air box down. If you want to attach it to the hoses like I do, this is probably the easiest way to do it right here. And then you got to get it all the way on. You have another air tube down here. I don't know if you can see it, but that just slides right up on there like that. This goes down. Make sure you put your air cleaner tube back on like that. Get your screws. There's 2 of them. There's one back here and there's one right here, but this one's missing one, so I'll tell you what, I can hear the comments now. How many bolts does that car have left on it? The answer is I don't know. So these are 8s right here. So let me grab my 8. There's my 8. Push down and turn. Get this down all the way, then you can move to the next one. Alright, and then we got to come over here, get this one. That takes care of that. Alright, so you got your screw in here. If you have a screw here, you'd put that in. That's tightened up. We got to hook up our mass airflow sensor right there. Double check your work. We got this front cover to put on next, so let me grab the front cover. We'll get the front cover put on. We got to put that back on. You've seen me do this a few times. But in case you haven't watched any of those videos and you want to know how it goes on, we're going to do it again for you today. The only thing I'm not going to do is show you how to the push pins work, because that means you have to do homework. So if you want to know how these push pins work, you're going to have to go back a couple videos back when we did the power steering pump and watch those videos, and then you'll see how the power steering pump works. So let me get you in position here where you can see what I'm doing. All right, I am over here now. All right, when you put this back together, oh, we gotta, hold on a minute. We got 4 screws we gotta tighten up in this front end here. Those are 10s. I'll take my zip real quick and we'll get those done. Forgot about these screws in here. You got 4 of them. These screws hold the upper plastic to the car. Alright, our upper plastic's been reassembled. Alright, anyway, reach up under the back, pick up your radiator hose, feed it into this little cup back here. Once you've got that done, line up your holes in the top of your core support, crash bar, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you're all lined up. Now you should have 3, 6, 8 attachment pins, but we only have, I think, 4 or 5. We have 4. We have 3 originals and then 1 Christmas tree that I stuffed in here a while back. So make sure your pins are pushed up. And if you have a limited number like I do, put them down in these holes here, okay? Because that's going to give you the best support. You have to keep in mind you're supporting a radiator hose here. So we'll just kind of set this down in here. We'll put this one down in this corner right here. Push that one down. And then we'll put our Christmas tree one back in here. It ain't gonna go in there. We're gonna have to figure, well, let's see. I usually put the Christmas tree one up here in the front. If it fits. I don't think this one's gonna fit. So I've got a better idea. I have my assortments here. So what we'll do is we'll get into our assortment kit. I've got some that'll fit in here. We can do Christmas tree like this. This one will probably fit down in there nicely. We can do a couple of those like that. Put a couple of those in there. And then I've got the actual GM style, which are these here, that we can put in the corners. So let me see if I can get one to fit in the corner here. You got to keep in mind the length on these things. They're not super long. And that one's not going to fit very well down in there. It might fit down in here though if you do this. See, that one worked okay in that hole, but you have to have the long ones for the deep holes. So anyhow, that's all the push pins I'm putting in it today. So if you lose one of these, you can get them from the GM dealer. They're, I think, $7.50 a piece. I know I spent about 30 bucks getting the ones I do have. Last cover we got to put on is our engine cover. Then we're going to, well, we got to let our jack down. So let's get our jack out from underneath the car here. All right, now our jack's out from underneath our car. We can pull our jack out now. This is our North Star cover. So set our North Star cover back on over here. I'll move you around so you can see. All right, we got our cover on. We got to just push it down. All right, now we got to put our battery box top back on. And we took off to tighten up our bar there. This usually snaps back on, but I think his cover's broke. But we'll have to fix that too one day. Grab your tools out from under the hood. Since you pulled the oil filter to do this job, get it started, let it run a minute, then get it off the ramps and let it sit on the ground level for at least 5 to 10 minutes with the engine off. Check your oil. If you have to, you might have to add a half a quart. I had very little oil come out of this car, so I don't think I'm gonna have to add any oil, but I'll get the oil checked. Make sure that you use a new oil filter. If you had what happened to me, I'll show it to you. I got to get my filter wrench back off this, but you can see where the O-ring's gone. And it's because it was stuck to the bottom of the housing. Once that happens, the filter's useless. You have to get another filter, because what happens is that O-ring expands out, so you can't snug it back into the opening on the end of the filter anymore. So unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. But got a lot done on this car this time. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave them down below. And we got another one coming up here in a week we're going to do. And Until then, we'll see you next time.